Originally, I wanted my first video as Opez Gaming to be about mediocrity in gaming. Recent events have resulted in the delay of the video because I can't ignore what happened to Anthem, even if I wanted to. For those that don't know, Anthem is a third-person action game in the vein of Activision Bungie's Destiny and Ubisoft's The Division. The game is developed by BioWare and published by EA. Formally announced at E3 2017, I was ecstatic about the game. At the time, I wanted this game to be what Destiny was supposed to be, a fun looter shooter with a new world to explore. Since this was developed by BioWare, the guys that created Mass Effect and Dragon Age, I was expecting a good story to accompany the gameplay. When released in February 2019, many people hated the game. I was more or less in the same camp. This was my first BioWare game, and my first impressions were less than stellar. The only few positives I can give is just the gameplay and the visual fidelity of the game environments, but nothing more. The negatives far outweigh the positives. The online service at launch was subpar, the overall story felt too much like Destiny 1, and bugs that prevent progression of certain missions contributed to my below-average experience. It was just a mess. This got everyone, including myself, asking, how did this happen if Anthem had so many years of development? We got several answers to that question, and all of them aren't good. Earlier this week, a journalist from Kotaku named Jason Schreier posted an article about the development of Anthem. Included are several interviews with BioWare developers. After reading through the article, I just couldn't believe it. I had a feeling something was up with the development of the game, but it turned out to be even worse than what I imagined. It's a miracle that the game came together in the state it launched as. I'll only go over the major points the article makes, but I highly recommend reading through all of it. I'll leave the link to the story in the description. Anthem started off as a completely different game when it was known as Project Dylan, named after the singer Bob Dylan. The idea behind this name is that BioWare wanted to create a game that fans want to talk about and play for years to come. The game wasn't always a looter shooter, but rather a co-op survival game, more akin to Dark Souls and Shadow of the Colossus. As time went by, Dylan went through massive changes and reboots at BioWare. Some were so major, other team members were confused about what they were creating. Even during the weeks leading to the E3 2017 announcement, the team leads didn't know either. From pre-production until the official announcement, no one knew the direction of the then unnamed project. That may sound like an exaggeration, but unfortunately, it's not. According to the article, the project remained on the pre-production phase from 2012 to 2017. 5 years of conceptualizing the game. It's always a bad sign whenever the captain doesn't know where to lead the ship and wander aimlessly in uncharted territory. Even during development, elements and mechanics were consistently taken away and put back. The game originally didn't contain the jetpack mechanic that was found in the final game. Before this, Dylan's original traversal mechanic was similar to mountain climbing. Later in development, flying was added to the game, then taken away, and then re-added several times. This resulted in level and art designers to continually change the landscape of the environment in order to adapt to the changing mechanics. It's the kind of indecisiveness that I would expect from an old lady deciding on what cheese to get from the supermarket, not from a AAA developer. This could be attributed to the misdirection and lack of leadership from the team leads at BioWare. Frostbite 3 is a game engine that one of EA's game developers, DICE, created for their first-person shooter series, Battlefield. The engine was capable of rendering dynamic environments and destruction physics. Since Battlefield 4, EA sent a mandate to all of their studios to use the Frostbite engine from this point forward. There is a problem with that. Frostbite is an engine that was made specifically with first-person shooters in mind, not for action RPGs. When BioWare had their hands on the engine for Dragon Age Inquisition, there were complications. The big short of it is that everything needed to be made from scratch, from inventory systems to a save load feature. This problem persisted with the team's next project, Mass Effect Andromeda, with worse results. The inexperience of creating an online-only third-person shooter made the challenge of creating what would become Anthem much more daunting. there was another team within BioWare with experience in online-only games. That team is BioWare Austin. To explain, BioWare is made up of several teams. BioWare Edmonton, who is the main team, BioWare Austin, who created the online MMO, Star Wars The Old Republic, and BioWare Montreal, who created DLC for the Mass Effect series and the developer for Mass Effect Andromeda, until it was merged with another EA studio, EA Motive. Austin was experienced with online games, so they offered help during the development of Anthem. When Austin and other key developers offered advice and fixes to BioWare Edmonton, they ignored those ideas because Austin was considered the B team and Edmonton was the A team. There exists some form of hierarchy where the Edmonton team is the authority, and the Austin team were just simply grunts. Former EA executive Patrick Soderlund went to BioWare's offices in 2017 to play a demo of what BioWare was working on for the past few years. The build he played didn't contain the jetpack mechanic. After playing, he was disappointed by the state the game was in. Quote, "This is not what you had promised me as a game." After this meeting, Soderlund sent a team that had experience with the Frostbite engine to BioWare. A few months later, Soderlund played a new demo that BioWare created, this time overhauling the graphics and added back the flying mechanics. He was blown away, saying, quote, "That was amazing. It's exactly what I wanted." End quote. That demo he played became the foundation of the E3 2017 gameplay trailer. In the days leading up to E3 2017, BioWare didn't have a name prepared for Project Dylan. Beforehand, the name was originally Beyond. Due to trademark issues, the name never went through. As a backup plan, the team went with Anthem. At this time, not even the developers knew what the name has to do with the game. It wasn't until after the fact that BioWare decided to name the game as it is, based on a force that was controlling the game's planet known as the Anthem of Creation. After the gameplay trailer played during E3 2017 that year, there was a collective, so that's what we're making from the team at BioWare. By this time, the game was still in pre-production, until October 2017, 4 months after the gameplay trailer. Reading through how BioWare handles the development, I'm reminded of a university student who procrastinates on their assignments, even though they were given months in advance to work on it. I should know, because I'm that student. Now, I don't want to go over everything the article has to offer, mostly because I'm pressed for time between personal obligations and putting this video out to make the next one. I highly recommend reading Jason Schreier's article as he goes in depth with the development side of the game and the internal resentment within BioWare. It's very easy to paint the big red target at EA. This is the same publisher that closes studios whenever they don't make the revenue EA expected. This is the publisher that forced microtransactions on all of their games for the past decade. They sent the mandate to all of their studios to use the Frostbite engine and forced the BioWare to release Anthem before March 2019, regardless of the state it was in. The worst part about all this is that a majority of Anthem's failings is on BioWare, not EA. BioWare had all the time to start developing the game since 2012 and waited until early 2018 to start full production, to release the game 1 year later. To say that the game has been in development for many years is a straight up lie. It's kind of funny. My next video was going to talk about mediocrity in gaming, and Anthem is currently being talked about. This was my first BioWare game. After the E3 2017 trailer, I was convinced that this was going to be the game to beat the Destiny series. It's thanks to reading this article that now I learned to be skeptical about game announcements. After everything that happened, I think Anthem's going to be my last BioWare game as well. Thanks, BioWare. You are the first game studio whose game I felt I had wasted my money on through blind faith. All I can hope for is that the team will learn from their mistakes. But after releasing their second straight disappointment after Andromeda, I don't know if they'll ever will.